To order, and first of all, we thank you for being here. We hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and we wish everybody a wonderful Merry Christmas. We do have a pretty extensive agenda and some very important things. As you see, we're a little bit short-handed. Chairman Tate is out of town. Mr. Gillespie is on his way from Greensboro, but he's also hung up on I-40. So we don't know if he'll, but we're going to continue on with the business of the county, and we thank you for being here. If you saw the agenda, things are a little bit different. At the first meeting in January, by our bylaws, we elected chairman and vice chairman. And so at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to our county manager, Mr. Derek Rowe.
As Commissioner Bill stated, the first meeting in December is the election of officers for the Macon County Board of Commissioners. And with that being said, and no further ado, I will now entertain a motion from the board for a nomination of board chairman.
Mr. Manager and fellow colleagues, I'd like to nominate our current chairman, Mr. Jim Tate, to remain chairman of this board. Chairman Tate has done a good job, in my opinion, and I think in this board's opinion. So at this time, it's my pleasure to nominate Mr. Jim Tate as chairman for the ensuing year.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? With none, we'll now entertain a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, let the record reflect, Mike, 3-0. As there is no chairman with us tonight, I'll entertain a motion for vice chairman in the coming year.
I'd like to make a motion, Ronnie Bill, to resume that chair as vice chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. No further, is there any discussion? With none, I'll entertain a vote on that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect 3-0. Mr. Bill, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all for that resounding vote of confidence. But it is a pleasure to serve as any officer or as a commissioner. Just because you're chairman or vice chairman, those of you in the room, Mr. Gregory and several others, know that you're here to do the work of the people. It don't matter what position you hold. So, but we appreciate it very much. So with that, we will move on with the agenda as outlined. Do we have any announcements? Mr. Decker?
None.
Mr. Rowland?
No, sir.
Would you like to announce about anything about what you might or might not do at a gas station? Would you like to get into that now?
If you drive a diesel, don't put gas in it.
Ms. Shield? Oh. And we have no announcements, just a little bit up to speed stuff, just real quickly. I did go to Washington, D.C. last week. We did meet with our delegates, our legislation delegation, Senators Burr, Tillis, and Congressman Meadows. We heard a lot of things. We did get to go, and I did speak at the White House. Probably won't invite me back, but that's all right. But a lot of things were said. We talked about broadband. Chester, we've been down this road. We had 4 people there from the administration talking about the communications and the broadband. This was just some of the things that was said. It was said that, and somebody here will have to tell me his name, the guy with the electric cars, Tesla? What? Tesla. Yeah, he will have as many as 90 satellites in orbit in 8 years to provide broadband for all rural areas. And my comment was, well, while they're doing that, could they run us just about 1,000 miles of fiber if we can have a little bit in Macon County? So if you believe that, that's great. But now there's some money there for broadband, and that money is outside. They have a continuing resolution on the federal budget. So That money is there. We are going to be watching for that. Senator Burr and Congressman Meadows said that, and really and truly in North Carolina, there's no more need than West North Carolina for broadband service. And it's a utility. And the scenario I used was, what if they'd done this with electricity? Well, we'll give electricity to all you people on Burning Town, but now you people on Cola Sage, you can't have it. It's a utility just like anything else, and it's not a necessity, it's a need now. So we talked about broadband, we talked about payment in lieu of taxes, we talked about an array of subjects. So, and if you got any questions on that, we can talk further. But it was an interesting trip. It's always interesting to go to Washington. Also, we had a meeting with the RPO about what's coming to Franklin as far as DOT. The DOT is going to go through some changes. As you know, the gas tax no longer takes care of our roads. More and more people have gas-efficient cars and trucks. I don't. Some people do. But then electric cars, they're saying that passenger cars can, in 10 years, will be the majority of the cars on the road. That was what was said in Washington. I don't, you can take that for what it's worth. But here is the money that we have, and I'm going to run through these projects just real quickly, board, so you'll know what has been that we have voted on as far as the point system with the DOT. The Macon County Airport extend the runway. That is active, and the let date will be in 2022. And that is active, and that means it's on the board and going to happen. Depot Street from 441 Business, East Main Street to SR 1667, Warrior Street. Construct missing sections of the sidewalk along the west end. That is active, and that has been funded, and that is also to let in 2022. US 23441, Wide Horizon Drive to Belden Circle. That is active. That's the second section going down the Georgia Road. That is active, and the surveying is continuing, but that is also to be let in 2022. NC 106 from the Georgia line to SR 1618 Glen Falls. That's on hold. There are going to be some maintenance done, extensive maintenance done on that area, but it is on hold. The rest of these things, we have bridges. The federal government released quite a bit of funds for bridges, and I think we have, and they go all the way from 2026 to 2020, and I think there's a total of 42 bridges to be replaced in Macon County. And as you know, they're on some of our secondary roads. I know Paul crosses 3 or 4 bridges every day that desperately need replaced, and they're on the list. Also, in Macon County, this is to be let. This is what's going on now. 23441 from Wide Horizon Drive, the Belden Circle Bridge, which is complete, crossing Cartagena Creek. If you know, there's going to be a median down through that's the most accident-prone area we have. It's 23% complete, so expect that to continue on. US 441 Business Warrior Street, that's 43% complete. And the last one is 106, and that's just now started at 4%. So that's a little and if the media would like this, you're welcome to it, to see what's happening in Macon County as far as DOT is concerned. Okay, any other announcements? If you would, please stand we'll have a moment of silence, and I'd like to ask our sheriff, Mr. Robert Holland, to please come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll please take a moment of silence. Sheriff Holland.
Salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all so much. Mr. Counsel, we have no public hearings scheduled. All right, so we'll move on to the public comment period. We have 4 speakers. We'd like to welcome Ms. Diane Keener. Ms. Diane, you'll come.
I want to take this opportunity to personally thank each of you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Macon County. For the most part, I've truly enjoyed my career with Macon County, and on December the 19th, next Thursday, I'll work my last day for the county. I would have loved to have given more, but circumstances in life certainly change. I would like to encourage you as leaders to listen to the employees of Macon County. Encourage them to be the best that they can be, and when they feel that they just need to be heard, listen to them. Recently, I heard a phrase, "I'm not interested in history." Well, that saddens me. History is a phenomenon. It has a story. History stands for the knowledge acquired through time. When we listen and respect the employees that have been here for a number of years, then we prevent mistakes that have been previously made. We will also get an understanding of the policies which were successful and also the ones that were not. This kind of analysis will increase our understanding of people and the ways to deal with them. It'll allow employees to use that knowledge and encourage them to ask people of longevity their opinion. This mentally will pave the way for a successful, fruitful, and productive work environment. That will in turn provide better relationships for those that need and depend on our employees and services. I have enjoyed it. It has been an adventure. I've met some incredible people, and I wish every one of them was here so I could personally say thank you for what they've given me. So thank you.
Diane, we can never thank you enough on behalf of this entire board, and more especially the citizens of Macon County, those of us who have been around a while. We just earlier tonight, for y'all don't know in the audience, we recognized our 10, 15, and 25-year employees. And we certainly recognize without dedicated employees like yourself that's dedicated to the service of people in Macon County, we'd be nothing. We have no reason to be here. So thank you, Diane, for all you've done through the years for Macon County. We appreciate you. Okay, Mr. Jim with the Toy Museum. Jim Garrett. I was at the Toy Museum on Saturday.
Yes,
I
you were.
certainly was. And played with some of them.
Yeah. Just like all the rest of the children, correct?
That's right.
Hey, my name is Jim Gary. My wife Sandy and I moved here 13 years ago from Goldsboro, North Carolina. I'm retired from the Air Force, and she was also a veteran and retired from civil service at Seymour Johnson. The Toy Museum, some of you may not know about the Toy Museum, but we're located out at Cowie School in one of the rooms out there, which is about 600 square feet. And Sandy and I have been collecting since about 1950. I still have my first model that I ever built, and other models behind that, and a train that I got for my first Christmas in 1939. We have approximately 2,000 toys on display at the museum, and our collection is worth probably $100,000 or $150,000 in all the toys we get. And we have toys coming in all the time. We had people come out there on Saturday wanting to donate toys to us. We have a gentleman coming up back from Florida in May who wants to bring us his whole train collection to us, and we need a place to put it. 3 years ago, we opened up in Cowie School, and we enjoy being at Cowie School, but we have way outgrown the facility that we're in. And when we first started, we made 2 trips to South Carolina to pick up dolls that a lady had been collecting for years and years. It was a dealer and gave us all her dolls. 2 trips with the truck and trailer. Fellow in Kansas gave us 48 Cadillac toys, and he has a 90-piece military Studebaker toys that we're trying to get, which would be a real nice collection. Gentleman came in last February and brought us in 4 large tubs of big Tonka-sized trucks and trains. We've had some of them out, some of them are in storage. We have a children's play area back there in the back. When you're back there playing in the toys
I
with the
was.
train, playing with Thomas the Train.
I did.
And we have the children's play area. The children love it. They're not on their fingers playing with their electronics junk. Okay? We also are on about 15 Facebook pages talking with different people who collect toys. We haven't gotten on the dolls or the trains yet because that'd be too much. We have people who don't know what to do with their toys. I'm working on trying to get those toys to come to us. Just like our collection, we plan on, if we can get a facility to put them in, our collection to Macon County. This will give Macon County 6 museums, counting the taxidermy museum out there and Scottish Tartans and so forth. Give us 6 museums, another tourist attraction. We have a lot of people who contact us through social media, TripAdvisor, and so forth to come and see us. We're open 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. When we're not open, we're open. You call us, we'll come out for you. Anybody that's passing through, family coming in, we'll open up for them. We're closing up as of next Saturday, the 14th, for the winter. But if we're in town, we're open. And we're going to be, excuse me, we're going to be doing some changes in our displays, you know, in January and February. We need approximately 1,500 to 2,000 square feet of a building. We can't afford to buy it. My wife and I, on our retirement, we're trying to support this whole thing for the county. So we are currently under the Historical Museum as far as the 15501 goes, and they're supporting us just by being there for us, not any other way. So we would like, if the county can help us find a building for us, that would be great, because we want this to go back to the county. We want the county to have it. And whatever we can bring in from other people, from other areas, that's what we want to do for the county. So, and we'd like to invite all of you to come out to the museum. You have the card, the RAT card. Give me a call. I will be glad to open up for you. Come out, come and see us. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I just thank you.
How many museums do we have here?
We have 6.
6?
We have the Taxidermy Museum out there on Highlands Road, the Scottish Tartans Museum, Ruby City is a store, but it's a museum also. Historical Museum is the Gem Museum. Now, I don't know what's in Highlands. I didn't count Highlands. I just counted, you know, in our own area. We will be number 6. Pardon?
You're one of the 6.
We would be the 6th one. Mm-hmm.
Let me just say
Unless
this
I missed
about-
something, I'm sorry.
For those of you who never saw the toy museum, one thing, it has Jim's, the first train that he ever had as a kid, and it was running. But what I thought of when I walked through it, I thought about all them I tore up. That's now worth money. And this stuff is not, as Bob McCullum will tell you, it is good stuff. I mean, it is almost mint, everything, from pedal cars. So it'll certainly take you down memory lane if you go. These folks have dedicated, and they've worked tirelessly at this. And as you know, Jim, we are in the middle of a space needs study for a lot of different things. And I think most of us think that this is something certainly worthy of talking about at the time, so we'll keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. As I said, I enjoy being out at Cowie School, but we don't get the visitors out there, and we just have outgrown our space. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
one
you're
of the
cool.
things that we just brought back from Thanksgiving weekend, we went to High Point, was a pedal boat, a very rare piece. You saw it.
Oh, yeah, it's some
Yeah.
neat stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
all you do. And thank you for you and your wife's service also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we have, make sure I get the last name right, Andy Shamar.
That's correct, thank you.
Come in, Mr. Shamar. You're going to be speaking about the Macon County Library.
Yes. Good evening all. Thanks for letting me speak for a few minutes for you. I am speaking on behalf of the Macon County Library Board. I was appointed to the board 15 months ago and have learned much about the county's library system in that time, with my tenure on both the county board and the Hudson Library Board simultaneously. Other members of the board have addressed you all over the past several months about activities going on with the county library system, and we hope to continue to do so on a monthly basis. One of us come in and let you all know what's happening. In October, we were pleased that Commissioner Higdon and County Manager Rowland joined us at our bi-monthly meeting, and I'd encourage all of you to try and do so on a regular basis, so that we can keep you briefed as to what's going on. You can see how we represent you as the commissioners, and as well as represent our respective libraries and our fellow residents. My primary purpose tonight is to speak briefly about the Comprehensive Space Needs Assessment Report prepared by Mosley that was presented initially. The initial report was presented to you last month, and specifically talk about the Nantahala Library, which I think most of you are very familiar with. We were encouraged to see that the report said that the current facility was not suitable for continued use and should be demolished. I'd like to make a couple observations along those lines. We very much appreciate the interest of the commissioners and the county manager in that facility, and have personally taken an interest in doing so. We agree fully with the report's conclusions, again, that it's not suitable for continued use and should be demolished. Although it's listed as a Tier 3 facility in the Mosley report, we do hope that its dire condition really encourages you or allows you to consider a higher priority for this facility and its replacement in the future. It calls the library, we noted, we had our bi-monthly meeting last week, and we saw that the report calls for it to be a library and community center. And our belief is that the majority of this sentiment in the community and with the library, that this be a library, and like the Hudson Library and the Macon County Library, that it include community space for meetings and any needs of the community. But first and foremost, it'd be a library, and that those other needs are met through the space that's permitted. As shared with Commissioner Higdon and County Manager Rowland in October, we don't believe, though, that a member of the Nantahala or Macon County Library staffs, nor our Nantahala representative, your Nantahala representative on the board, Ed Trask, were contacted or interviewed by the consultants regarding the real needs of the community and the needs for that library. Additionally, the space programming questionnaire that's included in that 900-page report, amazing, were completed by other county departments, I'm pretty certain, but not by the Macon County Library staff. So we would ask that before the report is finalized or as an addendum, that questionnaire at least go to the county library staff. May actually turn out that the 10,000 square feet that the report calls for isn't needed for the purposes of the Nantahala community. So it might actually save some money in getting and collecting the data now. So I strongly encourage you to have the experts of the library system be consulted concerning the much needed facility. so that you move forward with having it prioritized and funded, so that, along with all the other county improvements, so that it meets this community's needs long into the future, and you have the data necessary for it. Since I'm only going to be talking to you all occasionally, maybe once every 6 months or so, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up one additional topic, and that's the turnover in our library staff and across the county. As one example that I'm very familiar with, in the nearly 2 years that I've been associated with the Hudson Library, we've had at least 3 full-time administrative and library assistants leave for non-retirement reasons, and about 5 part-time employees depart as well. I know the Macon County Library has had to reduce its hours in the past because of funding and their desire not to cut staff, but to reduce the hours as a result of that. Our entry-level employees start at $10 an hour, the base employee. More technically competent start at $11 an hour. So we're paying them about $21,000 a year if they're working a little bit over 2,000 hours a year. And so recruiting and retaining, most importantly, retaining these people is extraordinarily difficult. And that's why we see the turnover that I've seen at the Hudson Library. Many of our employees, many of the county's employees, library employees, have to have second and third jobs just to make a true living wage or to stay above the poverty line, or what's considered the poverty line for Macon County. And if you go online, there's actually a great county website by MIT that takes all the counties across the United States and shows the average wages as well as the non-poverty, the wage that is non-poverty level and then 2 levels below. Thus, I'd ask that when the 2020 budget is considered in the coming year, that you look closely at the line item for your county libraries with an understanding that the high turnover rate may actually be costing us more than a slight increase in the salaries that we end up paying these people. So thank you for your time. Appreciate your interest. We appreciate your great interest and time and support to the county library.
Just so we have the people that's here has an understanding, the employees are employees of Fontana Regional Library.
I
They're
understand
not county
that.
employees, so.
I understand that.
So just so everybody else understands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
$1 million is, I believe, if I recall, $1 million of county funding goes to pay for
That's
the
just
operation.
part of the funding. I think it ends up at $1.4 million.
Yeah, when you count the services that,
It's about
the
$1.4 million.
infrastructure that we also support. So that, and that is, as Commissioner Bill was alluding to, when you look at the other counties that are part of the Fontana Regional Library System, Macon County has previously and continues to contribute a greater percentage of our annual operating budget to the Fontana Regional Library System than any other county, being Jackson and Swain, in that system.
Jackson only has two libraries. We have 3, so that's one difference. So I don't know the apples to apples or apples to oranges
But we also
comparison, but-
recognize the need for our libraries. We certainly recognize Nantahala needs. And
Yes.
space, we've looked at, I was chairman, I was liaison for years. Finding a place to put it is we always thought that where it is now would be the ideal place if there's some property there. And we've looked, and Mr. Higdon's been very involved in that.
Yeah.
So, and we'll continue with that. That's on the radar.
That's an important
Yes, sir.
thing.
That's
Thank
an
you very much for your
isolated
support.
community.
Great.
And we understand that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Next, we have Jane Morgan speaking on the library also. No.
No.
Jane. I'm sorry. Jane is speaking of the Gem and Mineral Society.
Yes, I'm Jane Morgan. I'm the president of Gem Mineral Society. And I'd like you all to think about, instead of a year-to-year lease for us, to go back to like our original, like a 5-year lease, so that we don't have that hanging over our head every year, and so that we can start making some much-needed repairs to the building.
Okay, tonight, I know it's on our agenda
Yes.
to renew your lease, and I think it is a 1-year.
It is,
Yes.
and candidly, I just saw that it was coming up and it was going to expire, and I thought, we better get something in place.
Right.
If,
Could,
if it's the
Mr.
board's pleasure to
Council,
go
could
longer.
we go ahead and approve the 1 year tonight, and maybe between now and and the end of the fiscal year, maybe come back to that and look at that?
I just did some calculations, and if the board wants, the present lease expires at the end of January 8th, which happens to be your next meeting day. And if the board is interested, we can put this matter off until January 8th, and I can do the requisite publication that would be required for a longer lease.
Mr. Shields, do you see,
I'm ready to do it tonight, but it has to have.
You can't do
you
it
can't do it
longer,
tonight, it's not
Right.
longer.
without the requisite publication.
Well, the Gem and Mineral Society, which have a pretty good relationship with these folks, they're diligent, they're persistent, and they work hard. And when they say they're going to do renovations to the building, which they've already done lots of improvements to the building already,
Hold on
we
just
can
a
certainly
minute.
understand why you'd need it.
Hold on just a minute, I may have misspoken. Yeah, I was looking at, when I looked at my calendar, I looked at the wrong year. Our meeting is gonna be on,
January 14th.
yeah, it's gonna be the 14th, and it'll be after the expiration. What I would recommend to the board is to go ahead and approve this lease. We can go ahead and put on for whatever term that you want to, for our next meeting. We can rescind the lease and then go into a longer term lease.
Does that cause a lot of work for you, Chester?
It's not gonna be a big deal, it's a matter of taking what I've done and changing a few dates.
Do you have any questions, Miss Jane, about that?
No, I don't.
Okay, so that'll, Mr. Higgins,
That's good.
we
So we'll
certainly,
be-
we thank you for all that y'all do, and Mr. Jones and the county manager will see to it that that's done.
At the
Okay.
appropriate time,
Yes.
we'll need for you to approve the resolution and lease that we
All right,
Okay.
have in
thank
the
you.
package.
Thank you, Miss Jane.
Do we need-
Anybody else from the public would like to speak before we move on? Your name is, Mr. McCullum, sure, approach, come on.
Since I'm here on the same matter that she is as the lease at Cowee School,
Yes, sir.
is to get an extended 4 or 5 year lease.
So come on
the
up,
school.
Bobby.
Okay, I'll take a second.
This is Mr. Bob McCullum,
Representing Cowee School.
1973 graduate, Franklin High School, wonderful class. And he is chairman of the board at the Heritage Center at Cowee School. So go ahead, Mr. Bob.
Well, the school is basically going to ask for, we're on a 1 year lease now, we were going to ask for a 4 or 5 year lease on the building. One, it helps us, we now have a strategic plan in place that goes out 3, 5, 7, 10 years into the future. But mainly, it would help us with the grant organizations that we're applying to, because now they want to see our articles of incorporation, they want to see our last 1099. We're a structure-oriented facility, and they're interested in what type of ownership or lease we have on that building. If we go for a grant that extends outside our lease period, they're a little hesitant to even consider us. So
We
I
also noticed
essentially,
that both places are going to be surplus.
Yes, and that's a matter of procedure when we're entering into a new lease, we have to again.
So Bob, you
declare the
understood what we
property
talked
surplus.
about,
Right.
Ms. Morgan?
yes,
To do the same thing, we could certainly,
we'll have to do the same thing.
yeah, and we'll go ahead and approve the 1 year, and then we'll come
I
back.
think yours
as Chester.
actually expires at the end of the 31st of this month. and
Right.
You have a gap if we waited up.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine, that's fine.
All right.
Just let me know.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, everyone.
See you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Addition, changes to the agenda. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Bill. I'd like to add 2 appointments. We have 3 appointments that we'll need to discuss for the Economic Development Commission.
That would be under 15A, under consent.
That will be under,
15A, under the consent agenda.
it's going to be under 15B appointments. Or 15A, yeah, it'll be under item number 15.
B.
We'll just add a B there for
Okay.
Economic Development Commission.
Any others?
No, sir.
Mr. Shields?
No, sir.
I do have one under reports and presentations. We will do and I did ask our audit presenters if it was okay with them, because we know they gotta travel tonight, but we have a special recognition that we would like to do under 11, just put 11A1. 11A1, that's a special recognition that we'd like to do before we have our audit presentation. Mr. Higdon?
No.
Any other changes? If not, we entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the changes as noted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We approve the agenda with the changes as noted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's approved. Now we will move on to reports and presentations, and every once in a while we had, tonight, like I said, we had 10, 15, 25-year employees that we recognize, and tonight we do have a special recognition. This gentleman not only has served on this board of county commissioners, but probably just as more importantly, at the Macon County Airport Authority. And most of us realize had it not been for this gentleman, we would not have one of the nicer airports anywhere in a county of our size, anywhere in North Carolina, not just Macon County. And so tonight we're going to take special time to recognize Mr. Miles Gregory, who has been on this airport authority since the inception of the authority. And we think that was 22 years ago, we think. It's been a day or two, Mr. Gregory. So to go down the list of, I've got some things I do want to read concerning just exactly what, have you got that right? I had a little, you gave it to me. Oh no. Hold on just a second. Because it's certainly worth noting Mr. Gregory's accomplishments. And I don't have it, Derek.
Did you got it? Okay.
I'll just use this one. Mr. Gregory has served on the Macon County Airport Authority, as I said, from its inception. This is his letter to the board. He said it's been a great honor and blessing to serve on this important board. It's been a great experience to serve with a great board and also with the commissioners. Our board has enjoyed the full support of the county commissioners from day one. I feel the lion's share of the credit for the progress of the airport goes to the Macon County Commissioners and the citizens, for without their support, the county would not have been able to accomplish the steady improvements at the airport. We're very proud of our airport and what it means to Macon County. The future is bright for the growth of the airport and Macon County. I feel honored and blessed to have this opportunity to serve and will continue to support all efforts to make it even better. I'm thankful for the privilege to have served with the present board members, and I know where their hearts are. So make a long story short, I'm resigning from the Macon County Airport Authority effective immediately, and I wish everyone the very best. God bless the Airport Authority and the Macon County Commissioners, and God bless all of Macon County. Sincerely, Miles Chairman of the Macon County Airport Authority. So Mr. Gregory, if you'd please come to the podium, and I think Mr. Haycock, we have a presentation. Mr. Higdon, Mr. Shields, if you'd join me down here at the podium. Paul? Mr. Horton's on the board, isn't he? Jack, come on up. Jack Horton's a member of the newly elected town councilman and is also a member of the Airport Authority. Well, Miles, this gives me great pleasure. We hate to see you leave the Airport Authority because a lot of us know without your personal involvement, a lot of things would not have happened there. Pete, who's been there many years, can certainly testify to that. And Jack, who served as county manager here during a large period of that time, will certainly testify to that. And I'll testify not only as a member of the Airport Authority, but has always been a great friend to me and to this county. So Miles, it seems the painting, even though it is a pretty painting, I don't know if you've ever fished that or not, but that's Palisade Falls right there.
Right there where you think.
You know exactly where that is. So this is in recognition of Miles Gregory for his extraordinary leadership and dedication as chairman of the Macon County Airport Authority. In no words, for y'all who don't know the struggles that the airport has been through on different items, Miles was always a steady hand and made lifelong friends in the state. And that's what you heard me read earlier about the airport runway extension. And that comes directly from Mr. Miles Gregory's involvement. So on behalf of the county and more especially all the citizens now and the future Miles that'll use that airport, we can rest assured we'll know where it comes from. So from all of us, congratulations to you. Your turn. I'll hold the painting.
You okay? Thank you, Mr.
You
Chairman.
have to speak.
We appreciate having the privilege of serving I believe we got 25 years, thereabouts.
About.
And it's been a great honor. And there's an old saying that I heard long ago, says if you're driving down the road and you see a turtle sitting on top of a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. So it's been a great honor to serve with the board that I've got, or had. And we work good together as just a great bunch of guys. And we didn't know what no meant. We didn't understand that term. So we kept pushing, kept working, and sometimes it wasn't easy. But we just bowed our back and kept digging. So we did accomplish a lot with the help of the county commissioners. And one thing that I think that all agree with me, and I don't have to worry about any pushback from our board. The county commissioners was with us from day one, and we appreciate the county commissioners' support. And we couldn't have done what we got done without the commitment of 10% of all the grants that we got. And I don't know how many millions of dollars that we was able to get through grants from FAA. But the FAA fell in love with our airport. And for a long time, we was on the easy street, and the county commissioners went right along with us. And we was able to accomplish a heck of a lot down there. And I think we've got as nice airport for the size of the county, that, like you said earlier, that you'll find in the southeast. And so and Pete can attest to that. He travels a lot and meets a lot of people from different airports, and they compliment our airport to Pete. So we're thankful, and thank the commissioners for their full support. Every time we come to y'all for money, it was there. And without that support, we couldn't have made it. So the lion's share, and I'll say again, the lion's share of the credit goes to the county commissioners, because without them, we couldn't have done anything. So thank you so much. It's been a great honor for me to serve as the chairman of
Thank you, Miles. And we'd like to recognize Mr. Pete Haycock, who has also been on that.
He's been great.
He's been on that board for many years too, and have worked very hard. You don't hear much from the Airport Authority, but the Airport Authority is his truly own little government. They operate on their own. They've had great leadership with Miles and Pete. And Pete, I know you like to say a few words.
Well, I just want to say that, we've come a long ways, as Miles said, without his support, we had previous people on the board that were, with Miss Harold Corbin. He was a great motivator. They worked together with everybody. There was no conflict. We all focused on one direction, and that's what made it happen. And through his leadership, Miles Gregory. And that is Miles Gregory.
Yeah, and Pete is still on the board, by the way, and one of the newer members of certainly not new to Macon County, but to the Airport Authority, but who knows has vast knowledge of the airport authority, Mr. Jack Horton. Mr. Horton?
Well, thank you, Mr. Bill. It's kind of like deja vu walking into this room again after so many years, but appreciate, as Miles says, we really appreciate all the support that we've had for the airport through the county commissioners, and that's what made it work.
Yeah.
This Miles Gregory fellow here, you stand in front of you, I've known for a long time. In 1978, he was elected county commissioner in Macon County. Remember that, don't you, Miles? And I was over in Swain County at the time, and we talked him into running for the chairmanship or the presidents of the County Commissioners Association. Hadn't been anybody west of Asheville ever in that position before. Miles ran, he got elected. Now we've got two. Mr. Beal has been past president of the County Commissioners Association. You can see the leadership that we have here in Macon County.
And Mr. Gregory nominated me.
Absolutely. And so, he's full of surprises, though, I'll tell you that. I hadn't been on this airport authority very long when he decided it's time to retire. Because he did that in 1986 when I came to work here. Miles had an opening here in 1985, and I talked to Miles. He said, "Would you come up here and do an interview?" So I did, and one thing led to another, and I became the manager here in 1985. In 1986, Miles was running for re-election. And we had a meeting on one day, and filing closed at noon that day. And it was about 11:30.
So you ain't got in the car.
It was about 11:30, and Miles says, "Well, I've got to go." And one of the other board members says, "Yes, he's got to go. He's got to go. He's going to come downstairs." We thought and filed to run for another term on the board. And Miles told me this himself. He said, "I took the elevator down. And I got off the elevator out there in that hallway instead of coming on down to the basement." He said, "I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and I decided I wasn't going to run anymore, so I went to the car." He's full of surprises. But I tell you what, his leadership has really been a treasure for this county in a lot of ways. And we're going to really, really miss him on the airport authority. But he's not dying. This is just a retirement. So I told him we was going to be picking his brain from now on. If anything comes up that we need to know about, he knows everything that you need to know about the airport authority for the last 20 years.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, Miles. We love you, and we're just going to miss you a lot. And we wish you the best of luck
Thank you.
for whatever
Thank
you
you
do
so
from here
much.
on out.
And a good saying that sticks with Miles Gregory is they never build monuments to critics. Never, ever build monuments to critics.
That's right.
So let your time in public service stand for more than just an argument. That's what this man does. And that's what he has done for ever since I've known him, and that's been, I was 5-year-old. It's been a pretty good while.
I hauled in the church for you.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you, Miles. We appreciate you, and we can't thank you
Thank
enough
you.
for all you've done for the citizens
Thank
of
you,
Macon
and the county,
County.
all the county.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
You looking good. You taking care of yourself?
Working like a dog.
Thank you.
You need to get a job. Get moved in next door to Bob down there.
I might call you, come down sometime.
Good seeing you, Jack.
Good to see you too.
Nice job, man.
Good to see you. See you, Jack. Bill, always a pleasure.
Sorry, I'll see you soon. Thank you. Tell Eddie hello. I'll see you.
See you, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And now, thank you ladies for waiting. Lori, would you like to introduce our guests?
Yes, tonight we have Brandy Fesperman with Martin Starnes Associates going to be presenting. And
Yang Clip, she's my coworker.
Pull the microphone down just a little bit so we can hear.
Yang Clip, she's my coworker. She's here to
Is it
observe
on?
today. I don't know. I'm really light spoken. You're gonna be able to hear me?
No. I couldn't hear you if you were loud. I can hear, so sure.
Well, then I feel a lot more confident about this presentation.
Yeah, I gotta do it.
Okay.
Okay, well, my name is Brandy Fesperman. I'll be presenting on your 2019 financials, mainly focusing on your general fund, and we'll touch base on your enterprise fund towards the end. First, I would just like to thank the board for allowing us to be your auditors again this year. And I would also like to thank Lori and the rest of the finance department. They are great to work with, and we really appreciate that. We issued an unmodified opinion this year. That's the best that we can give. It just means that we didn't have any material misstatements that would mislead a reader of your financials. And I need to follow this, I guess. Let's see. And here you can see your fund balance over the past 3 years. You had an increase of $634,000 in the current year. Your revenues exceeded your expenditures by $3.4 million, but once we added in your other financing sources and uses, that left you with an increase of $634,000, which left you with a total of $29.2 million. There are 5 different classifications of fund balance, and for the county, you had $397,000 in non-spendable, which would be your inventory and your prepaids. You had $4.6 million in restricted. 4.2 of that was your stabilization by state statute. The county did not have any committed. Your assigned was $250,000 for subsequent year expenditures, and that left you with unassigned of $23.9 million, totaling to the $29.2 million. We also calculate your available fund balance. We do this by taking your total fund balance. We subtract out your non-spendable and your stabilization by state statute. And you can see that calculation here. That left the county with $24.6 million in available fund balance compared to $24.8 in the prior year. That's a decrease of about $206,000, and it's mainly due to an increase in your stabilization by state statute.
Say that one more time.
It's
mainly due to what?
An increase in your stabilization by state statute in
Gotcha.
the current year.
In other words, it was an unfunded mandate.
Right. Your available fund balance as a percent of expenditures and transfers out went from 51.66% to 48.83%. 8% is approximately a month's worth of expenses in the LGC's recommended fund balance percent to be retained by local governments. So for 2019, the county had about 6.1 months worth of fund balance compared to 6.5 in the prior year. The county's revenues went from $50.5 million to $51 million. That's an increase of about 1% or $530,000. And your expenditures went from $45.1 million to $47.6. It's an increase of about 5% or $2.5 million. And I will go into the details of that in the next few slides. So here's a pie chart of your revenues. You can see the majority of your revenues are coming from your ad valorem taxes, making up 56%, followed by your restricted intergovernmental at 17%, and your local option sales tax at 16%. These top 3 make up 89% of your total revenues. Your ad valorem taxes went from $28.3 million to $28.4. It's an increase of about $119,000 or 0.4%, so it's pretty comparable to prior year. Your restricted intergovernmental went from $8.8 million to $8.6. This was a decrease of about $208,000 or 2.4%, and it's mainly due to a decrease in your federal and state grants in the current year. Your local option sales tax went from $7.9 million to $8.3. This is an increase of about $479,000 or 6.1%, and it's just due to an increase in collections in the current year. And on into your expenditures. The majority of your expenditures are coming from your public safety department at 29%, followed by your human services at 24%, and then education at 20%. These 3 make up 73% of your total expenditures. Your public safety went from $13.4 million to $13.6. This was an increase of about $182,000 or 1.3%, and it's due to an increase in salaries and benefits in your jail enforcement center and your fire task force. Your human services expenditures went from $10.8 million to $11.2. This is an increase of about $455,000 or 4.2%. This change is mainly due to your social work services or special programs increase of $181,000 in the current year. And your education expenditures went from $8.7 million to $9.7. This is an increase of about $1 million or 11.5%, and it's due to an increase in your public schools' current expenditures and capital outlay. And then lastly, I just want to say a little bit about your solid waste. Your cash went from $12.6 million to $12.9. Your GAAP net income went from 508,000 to a negative 611. This decrease is mainly due to an increase in your landfill closure and post-closure care costs. Your cash flows from operations decreased from prior year. You just had more cash paid for goods in the current year. And then your unrestricted net position went from a negative 279,000 to a negative 1.6. This decrease is due to the OPEB liability and your post-closure liability increase. And that is all I have. I would like to recommend everybody looking at the management discussion and analysis portion of your report. It's just a good summary of what happened during the year, and it'll give you a little bit about 2020's budget, so it's a good reference. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions about the audit board? Lori, comment?
Just had another good year.
Well, we appreciate Martin and Starnes over the years, but we certainly appreciate our financial staff led by Lori.
They're great. They really are.
And I know you can't talk about other counties, but maybe you can. Just one time, nobody listens.
Put me on the spot.
But of course, we think we have one of the finest financial staffs in any county. And I know you look at a lot of counties, but according to the County Commissioner Association, we have a very strong financial position. We try to keep our taxes low, and that's because of good management from a county manager, and a lot because of this lady sitting right here. And so, any comments you'd like to make on that and brag on us, we'd listen.
I can't brag too much, but I will say that there are some clients that we just do not look forward to going to, but we do not mind at all coming 2 hours up to Macon to work with Lori. Everyone is great and really helpful, and I know our whole audit process, it's long and it's tedious, and everyone provides us with everything that we need timely and makes it a lot easier on us.
And we've said this before, the audit world has changed. Even since you've been there,
Yeah.
the audit world has changed.
It has.
And now it's so important. And so we appreciate Martin Starnes. We appreciate you ladies coming all the way from Hickory to talk to us. Any other questions? If not, these ladies need to get on the road. So we appreciate, we will be reading over and if we have any questions, we'll go through Lori.
All right. I'll be
Okay.
happy to help. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
everybody
much.
has a good Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Send
Thank
money.
you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Lord, to you and all your department. Mr. Manager, you got any comment on the audit?
Just echo what Lori said. Had another good year. Appreciate Martin and Starnes and everything they've done for us. But that good year culminates to all the hard work of those county employees, such as the ones we recognize tonight with the service awards. And without not only those employees, but county employees across the board, we wouldn't be able to sit and listen to a glowing audit presentation such as the one we had tonight. So at the end of the day, all the thanks goes to the Macon County employees and the great job they do keeping this organization running. It's an honor to work alongside of them.
Just one comment, you saw the number about our fund balance. When people say, well, that's way too high, that's way too high. We've always operated, since I've been on this board, under the assumption that you heard the lady say it takes 8%. You have to have 8% every month to pay the bills. And this board has always operated on a minimum of 25%. That was passed by a previous board as a recommendation. We've kept that recommendation. And to see our fund balance grow, that didn't happen overnight. That didn't happen over 1 year, 2 years, but that's our seed corn. Without that, some of these projects that we're going to be talking about in the near future, that's all you can do is talk about them. So our fund balance is important. It's there to use on things that we need to, that's not reoccurring expense, and I think the county manager, you do a great job with that, so but we appreciate it. Any other questions? We'll move on. Under old business, amendment to contract for medical services at the Macon County Detention Center. Mr. Manager.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Attorney.
And Chester has some comments as well, and the sheriff's here. He can certainly chime in. But we, for some time now, the sheriff and his staff over at the detention center have been continually trying to improve upon the medical services in which we're providing to the inmates while simultaneously reducing the medical responsibilities on his detention center staff. The agreement that, the amendment to this medical services contract before you tonight will take giant steps toward accomplishing each of those things I just mentioned by adding the services of a registered nurse to our current medical contract that we have with Dr. Creel. This, finance-wise, the change will take that contract amount and adding these services of an RN from $5,000 a month to $8,033 a month, thereabouts, and some change. And this new agreement's set to take effect December 1st. And I will just say the money, we will take the money to accommodate this contract increase can be found within the sheriff's budget, so we can accomplish that internally. And going back to what I was going to say, this medical arrangement we have right now, we have previously in budget years looked at outside companies and the possibility of contracting with these large-scale providers that come in. In our assessment of those, and again, this has been multiple budget years in which we have looked at these different companies, we have never, first of all, we have never saw a proposal that was less than $260,000 from one of these companies. And even at that $260,000 level, we never had the luxury of having a medical doctor on call and available to be at the detention center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is something that, Derek, Lieutenant Jones, and the sheriff each can tell you that is a luxury that we're blessed to have here in Macon County under this current contract arrangement. And with the addition of the registered nurse, it's going to make that contract that much better as far as medical services at the Macon County Detention Center are concerned.
Sheriff?
I think he said it perfectly. There's a couple of things I wanted to say, but he filled you in right there. One of the main things is the cost. We're one of the only jails in Western North Carolina that doesn't have a organization that we're contracting with to do medical. We're able to utilize Dr. Creel, but we're also saving half the amount of money.
Right.
And I think that's a huge plus. Plus, we know Dr. Creel, we know the nurse, and with all these other organizations, you don't know who you're going to have today. And so it's a real benefit, and it's a real addition to our detention center to know the doctor and to know the nurse and be able to call them anytime that you need them.
And to add on to what the sheriff said, as we have mentioned, these groups we have reviewed have been upwards of $200,000, $260,000, and even with this contract amendment, we will still be paying less than $100,000 annually for the medical services that we're receiving, that we're providing to inmates at the detention center.
And I also think it needs to be said, Lieutenant Jones and Sheriff, that this is also a liability issue, a huge liability issue to the county, which we almost had to face not long ago, with deputies dispensing medications almost on a full-time basis, Lieutenant Jones, and I know that. So it's also, as Mr. Jones will tell you, one liability case when something terrible goes wrong, that would pale in comparison to what we're going to be paying for professional services. So with that, any more comment?
I would just simply say as you know, we entered into a new contract with Dr. Creel back in September. He was kind enough to work with us to see what improvements he could offer. This is a product of that. And probably the biggest thing that will change the existing contract is that there will be a registered nurse present 5 days a week between 8:30 and 3 p.m. and she will be taking the responsibilities of the medication disbursement during that time, which addresses one of those things that Vice Chairman Bill referenced a moment ago about liability. She's trained to handle that. And
Board, any questions to the sheriff or the county manager concerning contract for the amendment to the medical services contract.
Since he's here too, I'd like to say that, he works closely with our health department, and it's a team. It's a great group effort, and, we appreciate the fact that our health department will openly work closely with our doctor and our inmates' needs, which are required. We
Thank
have
you,
to
Carmen,
we have to
and thank your
fulfill
staff.
those needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the certificate for the First Amendment, the amendments to the medical services contract as presented by the county manager and county attorney.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we accept the amendments to the medical services contract as presented. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So, thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, Chester, for the work on this. And thank you, Lieutenant Jones, that has to do it every day. Okay, moving on, we have an amendment to the memorandum of transportation agreement. If you remember, board, this was voted on back in September. The contracts have been reworked. We've already voted to approve that, so Mr. Manager, you can take it from there.
Yes, and I will let Chester jump in when necessary, and the sheriff can feel free to speak to this as well. Basically, as you'll recall, and Commissioner Beal alluded to, we have previously approved this agreement as was required by legislation from the state, which basically lays out the process we adhere to when transporting patients that have been involuntarily committed. This agreement was approved back in October of the current, or no, I think it was
It's in August,
September.
September.
It was in September of this current fiscal year. And since that approval, there has been some changes and the desire to make some changes to the way that we had agreed in this original agreement with each of the towns that we would handle and had been handling the transportation of involuntary commitments. That change involves contracting the transportation for these involuntary commitments out to a third-party provider, which we will discuss in greater detail when we get to that segment under new business. But for the purposes of this agreement, it will be a change to the way business is conducted concerning the transportation of involuntary commitments. In making that change, we will be the first ones to approve this amended memorandum of transportation agreement, and following our approval, it will also need to be approved by the town of Franklin and town of Highlands. And the main change again is we're incorporating the services of that third-party transportation provider into this agreement. Chester, do you have?
Yeah, just in a nutshell, we approved the first memorandum of agreement fairly quickly because of the statutory deadline. I think even at that time, there was some discussion about possibly utilizing a third-party transportation provider in lieu of the sheriff at least some of the time, even at that time, but there simply wasn't time to negotiate the contract and get it in place by the state's deadline for this memorandum agreement. We've since worked with the proposed provider, and your county manager has negotiated what he believes to be favorable, very favorable terms to the county. At this particular point in time, I believe his recommendation is to adopt this amendment to the transportation agreement with the understanding that it will be presented to the other parties to that document, and that the other interested folks in this process would be alerted to this change.
Mr. Manager, anything else?
No, sir. As I said, we'll discuss in greater detail the third-party transportation agreement under new business.
Sheriff, do you have anything on the amendments?
What he didn't say is he worked magic.
Okay. So, gentlemen, you have the amended memorandum of transportation agreements in front of you. You have the transportation service contract and the amended memorandum. Any questions for the manager, the attorney, or the sheriff?
thank Chester, he did a lot of,
Yes. And and I'd like to thank the negotiator here.
yes, he was magic.
And basically, you know, we looked at it every way, and the sheriff can comment. This is not to only open up the people who the calls continue to increase to the sheriff's department, but to have somebody on the other end of the state when you need them on the road, sheriff. So that was one of the main reasons is to help benefit our sheriff's department also.
134 last year, and then we're at 199 today, and we had to transport two to the coast today.
And that's the wear and tear not only on our officers but on our vehicles. So, any other comments before we ask for a motion?
Make a motion be accepted as presented.
Motion. Did you second, Paul?
Yeah.
The motion been made and seconded that the Macon County Board of County Commissioners agree on the amended memorandum of transportation agreement and the not emergency transportation services contract. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move right on. Next, we have the resolution declaring, can we do these together, Chester? We have to do them separate.
I think we
As
decided
far-
to.
These leases?
I think you should handle them separately.
Separately, okay.
Yes.
First of all, we have a resolution declaring the old Macon County Jail, current location of the Gem and Mineral Society, surplus property and accompanying lease to the Gem and Mineral Society for the period of January 9, 2020 through January 8, 2021. As you heard our previous discussion, we'll probably revisit this as they've asked for extended lease. Are there any comments or questions concerning those leases? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept the resolution.
Make a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we accept the resolution declaring the old Macon County Jail, the current location Gem and Mineral Society, surplus property and accompanying lease to the Gem and Mineral Society for the period of January 9, 2020 through January 8, 2021. Any further comment?
Yes, if I may get some direction from the board and some help, I think that lease had heretofore been running about 5 years at a time.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Mhm.
Is the direction of the board to prepare the new lease for consideration at January 2020 for 5 years?
I would certainly think so. With, you know, Jane said that, you know, they want to do a lot of renovations and upgrades to the building, and I think it'd be only fair to them. And if you don't know the number of people who come to through that museum, I don't have those numbers in front of me. Jane might, but it's substantial, and it brings a lot of folks to Macon County. So,
I'll work with the county manager about getting the record.
Mr. Higgins, is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shields?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we have a resolution declaring Cal East School as surplus property and accompanying lease to Cal East School Arts and Heritage Center for the period of January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Maybe that, and so that would be under the same gentleman, that's under the same guys as the Gem and Mineral Society. We'd like to extend the lease. If nobody was there on Saturday at the Heritage Center, you literally couldn't walk. I mean, there was so many people there. So they've done a great job there, and they also would like to do, as you heard Mr. McCullum say, they'd like to do some work and extend theirs too, Mr. Jones, if Mr. Shields, Mr. Higdon agree.
The reference was for 4 or 5 years, I think you requested as the commissioners have.
I would think whatever 5 years,
5
whatever we do,
years.
the general minimum that we'd do for them.
Right.
Are there any comment on the resolution? If not, we'll accept the motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motion been made and seconded. We approve the resolution declaring Cal East School building surplus property and accompanying lease to Cal East School Arts and Heritage Center for the period of January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Any further discussion?
Be back here on that issue in January.
On both of them?
Yes.
Yes, sir. If not, All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on. We now have two special guests with us. We have Mr. Billy Jones, who is president of VVA chapter, Vietnam Veterans of America, chapter 994. Mr. Rick Norton would like to make a request of the board. Gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Talk to him, man, you're the boss.
What we're here to ask is the board to consider that we get a POW flag at the Macon County Courthouse under the American flag. We feel that as many veterans as we have in Macon County, that they deserve some kind of recognition. And I think Rick's got a list of some figures that he would like to read that are pretty amazing as far as POWs and people missing in action.
Mr. Norton.
Just for example, Vietnam, there's still roughly 1,500 MIAs unaccounted for. We're still finding them, and they're still bringing them home, but at a much reduced rate than what previously been happening in the past. So there's still 1,500 Vietnam MIAs still missing in Vietnam today. From the Korean War, there's over 7,800 MIAs missing in action. Would any of you gentlemen care to guess how many from World War II?
We'll tell him.
There's over 72,000 MIAs from World War II. Most of those men are never coming home, but at least we feel like that they should be recognized and respected, and we would like county commissioners to approve a motion to fly the POW flag under the American flag on the flagpole in front of the courthouse. And if
We'll supply the first flag.
well, I was going to try to get them to buy it, but we will supply it.
We have a brand new one at the office.
We've got a brand new one at the office. The rules state that the flag must, the POW flag, if flown under the American flag, must be no bigger than and preferably a little bit smaller than the American flag. So it would be a smaller flag, but it would be on the same
So
pole.
Rick, make sure we all understand, we got 3 flag poles
Yes,
outside.
we
got
do.
the American flag,
Yes,
we have the county flag.
county flag and the
And the
state flag.
state flag.
Yes.
So this one would fly just beneath the American flag.
The American flag at a smaller size. Like if the one that's on the pole is 3 by 5, then you'd put a 2 by 3 on the pole.
Well,
But if you have
Unless you would
something
like to
bigger-
erect a new flagpole just for the POW flag, that would be,
might be something to think about. But,
we'd be more than happy to have
you know,
the
with,
POW flag flying under the American
I
flag.
had an opportunity to speak in Washington about Macon County and about our veterans, on a lot of different aspects. There's very few counties where we can say we have 12 to 15% of our population are veterans. Of course, we're losing World War II veterans. We lost another local Vietnam veteran today.
Today,
Yeah.
yeah. we
And
did.
so, I don't know if it requires any discussion or not. Mr. Shields, I'm certain you have a comment.
I'm ready to make the motion to accept this request and move on.
Well, let me say this much. Somebody did bring the idea to us to do this, and we'll give that credit where it belongs and who deserves it, and that's Mr. Shields. He brought the idea to us at our VBA office, and we jumped right on board with it and thought that's a great thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But he felt like we should come and ask the commissioners to do this.
Well, I think as you two gentlemen recognize that, we recognize all of our veterans as heroes, and I think this board has proven, and we hope the folks of this county's proven that without our veterans, without all of our veterans, all this other stuff is stuff. So we appreciate it so much.
Let me say one other thing to add to that. Now, I've talked to you about your leadership and you being the face of the VVA Chapter 994, and I respect respect that, and I think we talked about this. We want to put this flag up on our Vietnam Veterans Day that ended the war in Vietnam. That'll be
March 29th.
March 29th. We want to do it that day.
Be a very appropriate time to do it, yeah.
Right.
There'll be a ceremony that day, as they always are, and that's,
We'll just play it on that day.
Mhm.
So, thank you, Rick. Thank you.
thank you, Billy. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
And just let me make one comment since we're talking about veterans in here. Just to let you guys know it if you don't already, and I think you do know it. Right back there is the best veteran service officer there is in the entire state
We
of North
agree.
Carolina.
And for you folks that don't know this, it's not something to brag on, but it shows that we were one of 5 counties in the nation, chosen to help start a program to prevent veteran suicide, and
Yeah.
that's because not only of our active veterans, but also because of our Veteran Service Office
That's right.
that is well organized, and I did mention that in Washington, and we had a lot of questions about that, and why we were a little county in West North Carolina out of the nation was one of 5 chosen. And I told them right quick that not only did we have wonderful veterans, but we had the best Veteran Service Office in the state.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so nobody could agree more, Mr. Norton.
I believe one other thing to add to that, BVA Chapter 994 is one of the largest ones in North Carolina, right or wrong?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It started right here also.
Yep,
It did.
It
It
started
did.
in Macon County.
right in the Ronnie Bill Complex.
That's right.
That's right.
Proud of it. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second, Mr. Hicks?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we honor the request from VVA Chapter 994 to place and fly the POW MIA flag in unison below the United States flag at Macon County Courthouse. This is submitted by the Vietnam Veterans America Chapter 994 leadership. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Take care, Billy. Good idea. Thank you, Billy.
Thank Mr. Shields for
Yes,
the
sir.
idea.
That's right. You did.
There's gonna be a thank you next round, Billy.
We appreciate you.
And thank you,
I'm sorry.
Miss Lady.
Mark earlier.
Thank you. I know.
See you, Rick.
Okay, we'll move on to D, a consideration of contract with Macon Area Transportation Services for the transportation of involuntary commitment patients. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Bill, and certainly the sheriff can chime in as he wishes, and Chester will provide a few comments at the end. As you can tell, Chester's been busy this month. We've brought all kinds of contracts to you, but again, here we have an opportunity in the sheriff's department to take care of an issue that, as the sheriff can tell you, has really, since the time we began discussing, which Chester alluded to, was actually before we approved the original interlocal agreement there regarding transportation services. We have been discussing with Mountain Area Transportation Services the possibility of entering into an agreement for the sheriff's department to be able to contract out the transportation of involuntary commitments. This to date has been an expenditure and expenditure that has been placed on the sheriff's department that has been quite significant, not only significant monetarily, but also significant in the way that it has placed demand on his officers, pulled them away from their duties of their shift while they're transporting these involuntary commitment patients. So over the course of the 6 months that we've been in negotiations with this group, the sheriff can attest to the fact he's, as he's mentioned to this board before, he's having difficulty filling some vacancies. So all these issues kind of compounded into where we are tonight discussing this agreement that has been proposed for third-party transportation services. What I can tell you to look for in this agreement, which again has been discussed and negotiated in depth, I feel that number one, there's a 30-day, we can end the contract in 30 days. This will be a trial run. We know that we're capable of performing these services. We're simply just trying to become more efficient and effective with those officers we have, allowing them to take care of their duties as opposed to the transportation services. So there is an out if we need to within 30 days. The original term is for a year, and the rates have been negotiated. I took a close look at the rates and have went back and forth with this company to get the rates as we have proposed in this agreement to allow us to basically contract with this provider and not lose any money, not spend any more money than we were spending prior to using our own staff and our own resources. So in doing that, we'll be able to reduce certain areas of the sheriff's operating budget, which we're going towards the transportation of these involuntary commitments to be able to gain enough revenue to put in the contracted services line item to support moving forward with this company. We will be monitoring this closely as we do all contracts to make sure that this company is providing the service as we expected and as we have discussed in contract negotiations. The company, Mountain Area Transportation Services, currently, I know they have been approved to receive Medicaid payment. Our DSS office uses them in certain circumstances for non-emergent transportation, so they have been vetted through that Medicaid process and the DSS department. Again, the rates are negotiated to a point where have been negotiated down to where we will not lose money by entering into this contract. We can continue without increasing the budget. We can take care of these involuntary commitment transports while being more efficient with the officers we have, allowing them to pull off that and still stay at the same budget. So with that being said, I will, Sheriff, would you like to add anything?
You said it perfectly.
Well, I think it needs to be said too, Sheriff, that we've had this discussion there again, and Chester can certainly mention this. It also comes down, you hear the number of transports that you've already done, that Lieutenant Jones and everybody's been involved in, and I've been involved in, is the liability issue for the county, which is getting, how would you put that? It's getting more susceptible all the time with the transports that we have. So with that, Chester, anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things. This particular contract is set to end at the end of the fiscal year with understanding that if things have gone well, it would likely be renewed at the beginning of the following fiscal year. Furthermore, it's made expressly conditioned upon us being able to, in fact, get all of the parties to agree to the amendments to the memoranda of transportation agreement that we dealt with earlier. So can't really begin operating under this until we get.
You're talking about the towns, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I think, while during that same time, the transportation services company, I know you have spoken with their legal counsel, and we have made some changes to their contract. Would this be contingent upon their acceptance as well?
Yeah, obviously
Right.
they have got to agree to the document. They provided us with a pretty good document. I have added some things that I felt the county needed to have and made a few changes. I would be surprised if we have a problem.
And this is, and Sheriff, we've had this discussion, is not only Macon County, but many counties are going to go to this transportation. They have to. They're just like us. They don't have the personnel. They can't release the personnel to do it. Jackson County is certainly looking at it. Haywood County and a lot of other counties are looking under the same aspect as Macon County. So with that, any more comment?
It's your recommendation, Mr. Manager, that we enter into this contract?
Yes, sir.
Specifically authorize your county manager to sign on behalf of the county at the appropriate time. Based on the manager's recommendation, I move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we approve the Transportation Services Agreement, giving the county manager authority to enter into the contract to be reviewed at the end of the fiscal year.
Indeed, in the budget process.
In the
Yeah,
budget
in the
process.
budget process.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. We'll
Any
move
idea how
on.
long that will take?
I would say, we will be able to get that contract, let them look it over, and get this on the agenda for both towns. We should be able to come back at our meeting in January to approve to fully execute the agreement.
In fact, I think we have the authority, unless there are changes, to move forward with them at this point, assuming the two towns.
Well, you know the
approve the
towns are
memorandum
going
of
to agree.
agreement.
What do they got to disagree about? We do it all the time for them anyway.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's gonna be affecting the towns.
I've already talked to those chiefs, and they're well aware.
Oh,
and
yeah,
supportive.
and very supportive.
Very
Okay,
happy to do so.
Sheriff, if you'll approach the podium, we have something new that been brought as liaison to the Sheriff's Department. We have discussed this at length. This is concerning the Sally Port out back. This is, of course, the construction of the Sally Port. This is to better safeguard for the officers and for those incarcerated, an entrance, a safe entrance and exit from the Macon County Courthouse during their court days. So, Sheriff, I know you've been working steadily at this, so if you'll fill the board in and your request.
What I'd like to do first of all is say, especially directed to Mr. Higdon, I know that he's one that despises us to come in mid-stride and ask for more money. And I apologize for doing that tonight. I'm gonna be doing that. In my 18 years as sheriff, we've tried to put good budgets together each year, and I think I can count on about one hand the amount of times that we've had to come in mid-stride. So each time I've apologized when I've done so, and I'll do that again tonight. But I think this is a public safety issue, not only the safety of the public, but also the safety of my officers. And so I felt a need to come tonight. I've discussed it with Mr. Beal as my liaison, as he said. But basically what's happened is we had an individual who came to court and went before a judge, and she was sentenced to time.
Sure, let me explain to the board, she was not incarcerated at the time.
Correct. She came to court, went before the judge. At that time, she was then taken into custody. And as routinely, because we go down stairwells, we handcuffed her in the front. And as the officer got down to the back of the courthouse, the inmate took off running. The officer was unable to catch the inmate, the female, and was gone. We had a massive hunt for her that night. We had an operation that had been planned out for over 2 months that was going to take effect the following day, involving Homeland Security, probation, the sheriff's office, different agencies, and going to homes. So we made it a point as we went to these homes also looking for her, because a lot of the individuals that we were dealing with ran around the same crowd that this girl ran with. And in fact, 18 individuals went to jail that night because of that operation. And during that operation, we were able to obtain lots of information from different people that had been taken into custody who rolled on where she might be, or they had seen her. And so based on that information, we were able to locate her the following day and take her back into custody. Now I'll back up. If you notice, the entire time that I gave that story, I never told you if it was a male officer or a female officer. I never even told the media whether it was a male officer or female. I was quoted in the paper as saying a he, but in fact it was a female officer that this person. The reason we don't say female officer or male officer is we don't discriminate between a male officer and a female. Each officer is responsible for their actions and their responsibilities, and so therefore I thought there was no need to say he or she. But it is in fact a she. And so tonight is the very first time that I'm actually saying a she. But anyway, all that to say that we had a survey, as you know, and the judge requested us to look at courthouse security more in depth. And in the Marshal Service, as well as the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, as well as the committee that you all requested for me to put together, all made the recommendation that a sally port needed to be built in the back. And so we're trying to be good with our funds, with our monies. And so we knew the space needs was taking place, so we opted to wait until that space needs came back and see what the steps were going to be made once that need came back. Well, as you know from reading that, that's one of the recommendations that they have, is that needs to be done. So I'm here tonight. For the last week, what I've done since the day of the escape is I've had different companies come in, and I've showed them, I showed the county manager, I showed Mr. Beal exactly what we needed to do the sally port. So I've got 4 different proposals from different organizations to put up fencing. They've all come, they've given me their quotes, and I'm here tonight to ask you for your permission to accept the lowest quote, which is Franklin Fence. They are here tonight if for some reason you need to ask a question, but I've got the quote. They've measured. The Macon County Maintenance Director has been actively involved with us as we've gone through this. We've already located any underground wires, water. They've come and they're ready to go to work once you all accept and permit me to be able to do this. It's a 15-year limited warranty, 4-year gate operators warranty as well. First year is electrical is covered, and then after that, and we'll talk about that in the next budget, but they highly recommend paying an annual fee, which is $275 for that gate operator. Everybody that we're involved with in this project to consider has recommended me to do that. $275 is cheap, and so I highly recommend that we do that as well. So tonight I'm here apologizing again, Mr. Higdon, for asking for this, but it's one of those needs that I think we have to address. In the time that it will take for us to get this built, which they're willing to start sometime tomorrow, if not physically start tomorrow, they're going to order the stuff tonight if you approve it, and then hopefully sometime this week get it in and actually start. And it'll take about 2 weeks or so to finish the complete project. By the end of that project, we'll have transported another 100 inmates from the jail to our courthouse. And so, once again, we're substantially risk of having something happen again. And so, I say that to say this: if we don't do it between now and the July budget, we figured up it'll be about another 600 inmates will be transported from the jail to the courthouse, or vice versa. So,
we'll need the amount of the bid.
got it. Got a copy for you all. Well, do I need
While he's
to?
passing that out, let me sort of explain what kind of fencing that it'll be. It'll be basically a black chain link fence. There'll be no question of what it's for with the way the design of the fence. It will have an angle at the top with wire, and we did talk about the possibility of maybe some wood fencing to make it look more attractive as you go down to the lower level.
Got 3 quotes total?
I got 5.
Okay, good.
So the problem with a wood fence, number one, we live in the courthouse is located in a fire district where we can only build an 8-foot tall fence through the town of Franklin, and that has to be under fire retardant material if it's connected to a commercial building. So that throws the economics of the sally port to where we just want to stick with what works. If we do have to disguise it a little bit more, if it's these folks from Franklin Fence will do a great job, and this thing. And here's the thing about it. I mean, we're in the next 2 years, and we all sit here wondering we're gonna be doing with our jail in 2 years, we don't know that. But we're also gonna have to be taking in many more juveniles. That has passed and will be law by then. And, you know, all jails are having a problem with runners. That's just it. Any opportunity they get, and we all know that. So, gentlemen, you see in front of you, if you have any questions, we have some representatives from the fence company here. They'll be glad to answer that. We had bids totaling from, you see here, from $40,101 to the highest was
$50,000.
right, a little over $50,000. So, any questions for the sheriff and or the fence company?
We looked at other options, and the problem that we had is we are in the town fire district, and we would have had to, for instance, if we built a wall, we'd have had to have an engineer. We just didn't feel, based on everybody involved with the project, that it was not going to be cost effective. And if we do make a change to this courthouse, it's a lot easier to take down a chain link fence than anything else.
And preserve it.
Service contract that you mentioned, $275, is that per year or per quarter?
I believe that's per quarter.
Just wanted to clarify
I
that.
believe it
for
is
the
per quarter.
purposes of the motion.
I can have that answered in about 1 second if I just turn it around.
I think it's for the year, the
Okay.
people that do our gates, and,
We'll verify
they
that.
come out
We'll
every
verify.
quarter and check the tissue on the chain and stuff.
And that's the
That's
real
not-
deal, because I babysit one all the time.
That's not included, because the first year's free, right? So we're not
Correct,
including
it's
this
at the end of the
this
year.
motion.
That's
So-
why I said we would discuss that in the July
Right.
budget.
Right.
And the warranty on the gate itself, the way I understand it, and since we have the fence company here, if one of Robbie's deputies drive through it, that's a little different deal than,
Right.
that's not exactly under the warranty.
Right.
Or
And
somebody
usually-
else drives through it.
So, and do you wanna comment a little bit about the fence? Is it plastic coated? Is it painted black?
The, pipe, post, hardware is all powder coated. The, chain link itself is the vinyl coated. It's a thicker, more industrial type fence, hard to cut, very attractive, putting black slats in it, privacy slats.
And I don't think we'll be having any people incarcerated that'll be jumping over this baby.
Paul's got it.
Never done
In the picture of the fence. Yeah, how long is this thing? I mean, it's got.
It goes all the way from the courthouse, all the way out to where the arm is now. You know where everybody's parked right out here behind the courthouse? That area will be completely fenced in. And as the courthouse committee and the two other organizations that did their recommendation, the judges and the magistrates and the officers that park back there now have a different location that they will be parking next to where the county manager parks in a
So you
different
got
area.
185 plus 120, that's the total length of the fence. 185 plus 120, so you're talking 300, little over 300 feet of fencing. And-
No, sir, over by the other building, where the deck is.
Corbin
there's
building?
one higher.
Yeah.
So nobody can grab the razor ribbon or the barbed wire and hurt themselves.
Right, there's some 144 inches tall and some 216 inches
Yes.
tall.
And the purpose of this recommendation is
To keep the inmates safe, as well as keep them incarcerated, and to be able to go into the Sally Port. You will then, and I really don't want to say publicly how we're going to be doing the inmates, but they will be going in a separate entrance and exit coming into that Sally Port. Basically, when they leave the secured facility of a fence at the jail, they will be coming back into a secure fence facility and will not have access to the outside. And they'll go into the courthouse, they'll go, and both with the two jailers, or however many jailers are there, but at least two, as well as the new courthouse security. And then when they come out of court, they will come back down, and as they get ready to exit the building with those officers that are already assigned to them, the new courthouse security officers will also be with them, escorting them out to their vehicle. They'll get in the vehicle, in a secured vehicle. Then that gate will open, and then they will be transported back to the jail and go back into a fence that opens up, which is there now.
And just a couple more comments. If you remember going back to the original report about courthouse security, this was one of the first things, one of the easier things that we thought we could do. Second of
Correct.
all, if we do have another runner, I don't know what it costs for the search for the other one, but I'll assure you that by the time you pay the men and ladies overtime, your staff, that we could certainly eat into a chunk of what it's going to
I know the money is extremely important, and it's probably the most important thing, but it's a absolute embarrassment to us, and it's a safety issue. Anybody could have got hurt, and we need to do what we can to keep that from happening.
This is a one-time thing, though?
One-time thing. Another thing that you all probably don't take into consideration, but what you also need to think about is how Macon County has not had a murder at the back of our courthouse is beyond me. You're bringing people that have killed people, your family members, you have people that have molested children, raped children, done horrible things. And so when we bring our inmates and that officer brings that inmate in, they're walking right by the back door where that child's father could be standing. You're walking right by everybody that's coming to court. No telling what somebody could hand one of those inmates that's, wanting to escape or help assist them escape. How we haven't been into a bad situation.
And
is
in that
just
same
by
report,
the
Sheriff,
grace
it
of
was
God.
also mentioned the general public that's in this courthouse doing just regular business of the day.
Absolutely.
And so, with that, gentlemen, any more questions?
Now, when you bring them in and out of the courthouse, they still interact with the public right here at the door, right?
Correct, but they will not be coming in that door anymore.
No, but do they come out of that door?
No.
Go up?
No, they will be going to a stairwell, which is where they go.
But
They
not
go
a public stairwell?
no,
It'll be closed off.
they'll be closed off.
And we'd recommend, if the board sees fit, that this will be taken out of fund balance as a one-time expenditure. So with that, gentlemen, any more questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept the bid from Franklin Fence, get our Sally Port in, and provide security for a lot of folks.
And Ronnie, that budget amendment would need to be for $37,567, which is the pre-tax amount. Sales tax comes out of a different line.
37,567.
Yeah.
And remember, this does coming out of the sheriff's budget as of now, right?
No.
No,
You can find it.
It'll be coming out of fund balance.
Put him on the spot and ask him when he's going to start the job.
No, well, he's gonna start soon. He won't be here tonight. Any other discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that, we accept it as presented.
Second.
The motion been made and seconded that we accept the bid from Franklin Fence Incorporated to build the chain link fence as outlined in estimate number 1281 dated 11/25/2019 for the total of $37,567 pre-tax. Any further discussion? If not,
That come out of fund balance.
then that money be coming out of fund balance, Mr. Manager.
Lori? I would like to say, since I threw him under the bus, the reporter that misquoted me and said I said he immediately contacted me and apologized and said, he apologized. No, it wasn't. Apologized for assuming.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So the Sally Port will be started soon.
I'll get it ordered tonight.
Okay.
Hopefully get it here Friday.
We appreciate what you're doing, appreciate the work.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a very important issue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Very
Ronnie.
much.
Okay, we'll move right on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda, gentlemen, you have the November 12th board minutes. You
Those are in
have-
hard copy. They were provided today before the meeting. You have them in hard copy in front of you.
And we hope you've had a chance to read the minutes. There's also budget amendments 117 to 122. The tax releases for November in the amount of $608.36, and the tax office monthly report.
Motion to approve, Mr. Vice.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. One comment before we move on. You know, we are going to celebrate the retirement of Mr. Richard Lightner. I believe it's on Monday from 1 to 3 at the Carpenter Building, I think, Mr. Decker, is that correct?
Yes.
So if you can attend, Richard Lightner has contributed over 30 years.
Over 35.
Over 35 years to Macon County and recognized as one of the top tax people in county government in the state. So please remember that. Any further comment on the consent agenda? If not, all in favor say aye. That passes unanimously. On appointments, gentlemen, we have two sets of appointments. One you have in your agenda, one we're adding. First of all, we have the Macon County Board of Health. The Macon County Board of Health has 2 seats available. And the Macon County, Carmen, would you like to comment? I know you all have met and made 2 recommendations to this board. Any comment from you, Carmen?
Other than we were glad to have as many interested parties apply, and the council of the Board of Health to make recommendations to this board.
Okay. Mr. Higdon is liaison to the board. We have 2. Dr. Foley would be appointed to the general public member slot previously held by Jennifer Trell for a term of January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2023. Do we have a motion for Dr. Foley?
Got 2, right?
We just do them one at a time.
Based on the recommendation of the Board of Health, I will submit Dr. Foley as any member of the Board of Health.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We accept Dr. Foley to be appointed to the general public member slot previously held by Jennifer Trell for a term of January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2023. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. It passes, Mr. Manager. Next we have Miss Gosa Tiger, I hope I said Gosa right, would be appointed in lieu of an optometrist previously held in 2016 by Dr. Frank Killian as a general public member allowed by North Carolina Statute 130A-35B. Ms. Tiger's term would be January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2023, unless a qualified optometrist comes forward to serve on the Board of Health before the end of Ms. Tiger's term. Any questions on that? If not, Mr. Higdon.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We approve Ms. Gosa Tiger to fill the slot of optometrist Dr. Frank Killian. I guess that's the late Dr. Frank Killian. Is it? No. No, well, sorry, Frank. Unless a qualified optometrist comes forward to serve on the Board of Health. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We also have some members for reappointment and a new appointment to the application to the Economic Development Commission. We have Mr. David Hubbs, who has been a member of the Economic Development Commission. He also serves as vice chair of the Economic Development Commission. We also have Johnny Mara Knipple. Mr. Knipple serves as chairman of the EDC board. And we also have a new member being recommended, Mr. Brett Rogers. Brett is vice president out at Duotech Services Incorporated. And you can read, all 3 are very qualified. Of course, Mr. Hubbs and John Mara Knipple are very instrumental in our EDC and the progress thereof, and we think Brett Rogers will be a good addition too.
Motion to approve, Mr. Vice.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We accept the 3 applications for the Economic Development Commission. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Gentlemen, that completes the agenda as presented. Anything else, Mr. Manager?
Closed session to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
You want a closed session?
Yes,
Okay.
briefly.
We'll entertain a motion. Will we have any voting coming out of the closed session? So there'll be no vote, so y'all are going to leave. So Merry Christmas to everybody here. Thank you all for being here. Send money.
Say, Brittany.
If I can ask you gentlemen